Welcome to this panel. I'm very, very excited to be here. I'm Elaine from Passion.io. And today on the stage, we have also Aimie from ArtNight, Alex from the German Startup Association, and remotely joining us, we have Alexa from SAP. And we have Chanyu from her.one. And we have, hello, we have also Caecilia from YouTrip. Very, very excited to be here today. A stage full of diversity. Diversity of background, diversity of experience, personal, professional, diversity of locations, diversity of also gender. So to start with, maybe we can back ourselves up with some numbers. I don't know if you're aware, there's a very cool research paper called the Female Founder Monitor, published by the German Startup Association. And we have the lead researcher here today, which is Alex. Alex, would you like to share some numbers with us about female entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for the invitation. As you said, we publish the Female Founders Monitor once a year. I brought one copy because I think it looks quite nice, besides the very important numbers in there. The one and most important number we publish in this report is the proportion of female founders in Germany, which is only 16% at the moment and has only slightly increased about the last couple of years. So the last 5 years, we only have an increase about 3%. So we can almost talk about a stagnation. It's a really huge problem we need to address within the startup ecosystem. When women found, where do they found? There is a strong focus on issues in the field of sustainability, so like a bigger purpose is very important for female founders. And then we also have some sectors where women are especially strong in, for example, in health, education, two sectors that also become increasingly important with the corona crisis, as you can imagine, but also in like B2C businesses, for example, food, fashions, stuff like that, consumer goods. So there are certain fields where female founders are already strong and other fields where something needs to be done to kind of strengthen female founders within the ecosystem. And one important aspect that we look at are the hurdles that female founders face, especially in Germany. And one big aspect here is financing. We have a real gender bias in financing, especially when we look at business angels and also VCs. And then we have a problem when it comes to networks with established businesses, with the established industry. There we also have a big gap between male founders in Germany and female founders.
Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing. The numbers shows us that like it's with a small proportion of female founders and also the stagnation show us that like there looks like good amount of challenges or difficulties of females founding companies. We have a number of female founders on the stage today, and maybe we can invite first Chanyu to talk about your experience in founding a company as a female founder.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much. So, my experience as a female founder, well, I guess I started quite early. I founded my first company in 2009. So back then, I think the whole ecosystem, even in Berlin, was completely different, I would say. And then, so I'm onto my fourth venture currently, 2020.
Wow.
So yeah, it has been a long journey, I would say. So 11 years in this whole industry.
Wow. And what would you say are the challenges like in these four attempts for ventures that you had?
Yeah, I'd say I totally agree. I mean, access to capital is one main issue, I would say. And definitely, I think, well, when I talk to female founders, I always feel that there's a lot of anxiousness and kind of like, oh, will I be, perfect? Will the pitch be perfect? And, it's quite stereotypical, but then the male founders are like, yeah, and, kind of like overselling and overpromising and, they're full of confidence. So I think it all starts a bit earlier. So we need to, embrace basically, also that it's normal to feel anxious, and it's normal that the first pitch will not be perfect. Yeah.
I guess it's also has also taken you a lot of courage to found different companies at different stage. Probably that comes also different stage in your life as well. So that's mind blowing. And we have another founder with us today, which is Aimie. And Aimie, what would you say about your challenges? Are they similar to Chanyu's?
I took another career path, so I started my career in the corporate world for 10 years before I founded 4 years ago my first company, ArtNight. And the challenges we were facing was not actually financing, because I have also a co-founder who is male, and for us it was more an advantage that we were like a couple, not like couple in real life, but business couple. Because back then, also 4 years ago, or also last year where we did another financing round, it was really positive because they were looking for female founders to invest in. So I would rather say it wasn't not like an advantage for us, but it was also quite good, because I think right now it's changing a little bit, that they're also looking for mixed teams or female founders. But there are, of course, like tons of other challenges that you're facing when you're an entrepreneur. And I think the challenges also never stop.
Yeah, interesting. And how about for you? Caecilia? Where did you found YouTrip? And would you say the experience of founding YouTrip gives you different challenges or like similar challenges as what Aimie and Chanyu have shared with us?
Sure. So, really, really grateful to be here today. My company is called YouTrip. So we are a neo-banking platform focusing on the Southeast Asia region. And we launched the first multi-currency mobile wallet that allows people to transact in any foreign currencies without any transaction and forex fees. We started in Singapore, which is where our headquarters is, and we have expanded to a few other countries like Thailand and so forth. So for me, I would say the entrepreneurial journey has always been challenging, with or without the gender in discussions. And I think it's particularly challenging for Asian context in two fronts. One is in Asia, I think the traditional and the conventional expectation in terms of the role of women, whether it's in family and society, has been quite traditional. So there is certain expectations still today where women will be, full-time housewives or, the household person who would take care of young children and so forth. I think the traditional values and culture is still very much ingrained in this part of the world. And I would say, the second part that I think it's quite challenging from a Southeast Asia perspective is that the venture financing, the VC-backed technology company scene is actually quite a new phenomenon. I would say really started just about 5 or 7 years ago. It's quite hard to believe, but it truly doesn't have the ecosystem that is as mature as, say, the Silicon Valley in the US or Europe. So I think the journey has been challenging. I'm not sure whether gender is truly the cause of it, but I would say, the time is now. With the pandemic, what I'm seeing is many women or men are displaced from their traditional jobs. So I would expect more and more people actually venturing out into the startup space. And I see a lot of encouraging panel like this one to really put on the role models out there in the public. So it inspires more people to go into the tech and, startup entrepreneurial space. So I think the challenges are many, but I think the time is now, and I certainly see a lot more people getting interested and going into startups.
Nice. And in your company, how do you support other females in your company as a role model for them to grow professionally and also personally?
Yeah, so I think the culture of the company is really what we need to set right day one. I think we are fortunate that in the early founding team of the company, we do have strong women executives and women leadership in place. Of course, I'm one of them, and currently I'm the CEO of the company. But there are quite many successful female managers and leaders in the company as well. I think having that inclusive culture is truly something that we invest in since day one. And I say invest is really because not only a paying lead service in terms of having an inclusive culture, where we welcome women and so forth, but it's really investing in them also. We need to be understanding that, some of these women actually need to take the children to school. Some of them actually need to take the children to a clinic. And I say invest is because we understand, we show respect, and we allow that to happen and trust that these women are truly contributing just as much, if not more, to the company.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Caecilia, for sharing with us what female executives can do in their companies to grow more female leaders in the future. And now I would like to ask Alexa for your opinion, because SAP has been supporting a lot of entrepreneurs, especially female, including female. What has SAP been doing, and what also would you say are the challenges that female founders are facing, and how SAP has been supporting so far?
Thank you. So first of all, I'm responsible for the startup acceleration activities in EMEA and Israel for SAP, and diversity is very important for SAP as a corporate already. So we've recognized that diversity in all its forms actually leads to better outcomes. So that could be ethnicity, that could be age diversity, it could be cultural and gender, of course, as well. So we've actually set ourselves as a company very strong goals for more females in management, and we're actually achieving those goals. And we recognize that also in the startup activity, some of the hurdles that Alex mentioned at the beginning, that a lot of the women founders, but in general also underrepresented. And when we say underrepresented, we mean percentage of population versus percentage getting financing, right? Which in the case of 16% for female founders in Germany is quite clear, where 50% of the population and only 16% are getting financing. So that would count for us in Germany as underrepresented, and it changes a little bit depending on where you are. So what we did was we set ourselves the goal early 2019 to be really we are the first comprehensive inclusive entrepreneurship initiative for underrepresented entrepreneurs in the business software industry. And we set ourselves the goal that by 2023, we will have supported at least 200 startups in the early stage, that seed, Series A stage, be it through investments. So we set ourselves the target of 40% of all our investable capital goes into companies that have a woman in the management team as a founder and who has a large equity part in the company, which is important as well. So it's not just a woman in the team, but it has to be one of the founders or in the managerial positions. And then overall, looking at that 40% also in acceleration activities, just because of the challenges that we kept hearing, and we've been on this journey now for 3.5 years. So we kept hearing the same challenges that were mentioned: the financing, the networks. People tend to invest in companies where they know somebody, or where they at least have the same university background, or there's a network there. And for many female founders, it was very hard to get into that network. And we heard that repeatedly. And given the importance of diversity at SAP, we then set ourselves this goal and created this initiative that we call No Boundaries.
But why? Alexa, why? Why is it important to have diversity in the ecosystem? Why is it important to have female founders, for example, in the ecosystem? What are the different perspectives that they bring in the tech and startup ecosystem? What are the differences they bring? So important that SAP has a program like that.
Well, I think there's two things. One is that, and there are many studies that prove this, that diverse teams lead to better outcomes. And again, diversity in all its forms, just because you're bringing more diverse perspectives. So you can just even imagine this panel discussion with 5 people who have all gone to a similar college, university, and who are doing a similar thing. This will be a pretty boring and, not much outcome of this panel discussion because we all have the same perspective, right? And it's the same with any business venture or any project. And that the more diverse opinions, backgrounds, experiences you can bring into a project, into a business, the more discussion you'll also have, but all, the likelihood of a better outcome is much, much higher. And that, that has been proven time and time again. Also, there are VC studies that show that money invested into diverse teams actually have much better returns than, teams that are more homogeneous. So I think the one thing is just, it makes good business sense to invest into diverse teams. And secondly, in general, the topic of diversity, because we've recognized this and we see that there are underrepresented entrepreneurs who just don't have the same access. And if they had that access, they would actually make this tech industry a lot more, innovative. That's why we decided to make this pledge and create this initiative and really deliver on those goals as well.
Cool. And how is it for you, Aimie, that you mentioned that in your team there are both male, females. How does the female perspective affect different parts of your business? Maybe it's in production, or maybe it's in the product, maybe it's in management itself. How has it impacted?
So we have approximately 70% of women in our company.
Wow.
And for us, it was never important. So we hire individuals with several skills and not by gender. So what I think is really important, whether it's a man or woman or whatever, to really support everybody in their own skills and support also on their path where they would like to go. And this is for me super important. And I think what I always see with women especially, is that they're lacking self-confidence when it comes to salary negotiations, when it comes to if I'm asking them, where do you see yourself in 2 or in 3 years? So they're much more hesitant to dream big. And I think this is something what I would love to support, that everybody is able really to think big and to say, yes, okay, I want to become the next president or whatever. And for me, it was also back when I was 17 and 18 and people asked me what I want to be when I'm an adult. I always said I want to be like a vice president of one of the biggest German corporate companies. And everybody started laughing, like you do. And the thing is, we are laughing if women, especially when at their young age, are saying what they want to become. And if they're saying, I want to become president, or I want to be the CEO of a company or whatever, usually what happens is that people are laughing because they're thinking, oh, cute. Yeah. But on the other hand, if a man tells anybody what he wants to become in the future, nobody dares to laugh because, yes, it could be quite realistic. And then he's an ambitious kind of guy. And the woman is usually the one who's like a dreamer and let's see what she's able to make. And I think this is the difference. And this is also the difference what I'm trying to make within our team is that everything is possible. And if you really want it and you're working for it, then you can also reach it. But it's hard work, it's tough, it's challenging, but you are able to make it.
Do you have some examples? It's very exciting, like to hear. I still remember when I was 17. Also, thank you for sharing about your dream at 17, 18, and now I'm going to share about mine. So when I was 17, 18, I was also not thinking about me becoming anything super big. I was thinking that maybe become a lawyer. Lawyer is amazing too, right? But I did not think about something like, also from the culture that I am in, I remember like wanting to be a lawyer was already quite a thing. They would be like, okay. They were already kind of laughing at me, even when I was just trying to become a lawyer. Today, with your team, especially with a 70% male, female in your team, how do you encourage them on a daily basis to have dreams or to get closer to their dreams? Because this is actually one of the challenges we face in the company as well. We feel that our female colleagues are less, they're more reserved about their opinion. Doesn't mean at all that their opinion is less good. How do you encourage them to be more open or to be more confident?
We have a super open feedback culture, and I'm also a big fan of open feedback. So we're literally talking a lot. And also what I think is the best thing you can do, and this is also what I've experienced from my former bosses, is pushing people into ice cold water and let them learn to swim. And for me, it's really important if someone would like to have a challenge and would like to develop, they also have to work on it. And yes, then they get the responsibility. They always know that there's like a safety net, which is me or my co-founder or their boss. But on the other hand, they have to learn to swim by themselves. And I think this is the best way to push someone to give responsibility, to have like an open feedback culture, to be also able to communicate, okay, that was a good try, but it was not great, and we have to learn out of it. And also that it's okay to make some mistakes in the beginning, but for me it's super important that you're not making mistakes like twice or 3 times or 4 times, but that you learn right out of it. And this is like the best method I've experienced, like just pushing people, giving them responsibility and support them. And if something really goes wrong, then there's always a safety net where they can rely on.
Nice. So actually the philosophy, sorry, Caecilia?
I have, I also, would love to jump in here. Absolutely believe, a strong believer of, what Alessa and also Aimie have shared in terms of diversity is important. But I also, really want to answer the question of why diversity is so important. I would say for many businesses like ourselves, where we are a B2C business, business to consumer business, having diversity, voices, and a women perspective is actually not a choice, but a necessity to become successful and to grow. Because among our many users, many regular mass market consumer users, many of them were actually women, right? So, when I think about my own user group, across the Asian markets that we serve, many in the community are actually women, because our product fundamentally help people save money. And many, of course, many smart women are more budget conscious. So it's so important for us to understand our customers and really understand their perspective, understand their whole mental model. So for us, I would say, having that female perspective is so important to succeed in our B2C business. And I would say when we set up our team for every country, I would actually model it and mirror the local demographics in terms of nationality, in terms of gender, when we set up that office as well. So in many of the countries like Singapore, they have Muslims, Singaporean, Chinese, Indians, and quite a diverse set of nationalities. That is a diversity that we also embrace, and will set up the team that way in order to serve the local community well.
Nice sharing. I mean, we're definitely not trying to stereotype, but I can relate to so many things that you just talked about, Caecilia. Like, I am the only female in the leadership team of the company, and I am the most budget conscious one in the leadership team. So all the time it would be me asking the question, like, guys, can we look at how much money we still have in the bank account? And I wonder also how that impact products, like as Caecilia has shared already. Chanyu, you have like a more female targeted product. In the book, I don't know if you know of a very interesting book called Invisible Woman from Caecilia Parrots. Like, it says a lot of the product design these days are actually still very male biased. So think about the size of the phone. And actually a lot of phones are too big for female hands. Think about seatbelt. The seatbelt that goes like this, it's actually not the most comfortable for our body. Think about our body, which is good. We have something, right? that are bigger than men, and it makes a seatbelt more uncomfortable for us than for men. But the design is actually much more optimized for men. It would be interesting to know what is it for you, Chanyu, especially that you have a more female-oriented business, or like your customers are more females than male.
Yeah, so I mean, at her.one, we create products by women for women. So we're a direct-to-consumer startup. So we have a physical product, or many physical products, and it's actually supporting women in different or various, let's say, life stages. You know, we undergo special life stages that men don't experience in that way. For example, pregnancy and various other stages. So I think from a consumer perspective, the pitch is quite easy, I would say. You know, talking to women, you know, everyone immediately understands that. And in difficult times, your body might need supplements or, you know, natural remedies that help you to perform. But talking to male investors, it's always, I'm not the target audience. Let me ask my wife and, you know, let her test the product, and then I can say if it's a good investment or not. So that was always, in the beginning at least, the issue. Now that we've grown, you know, we can convince people by our KPIs and numbers and performance. But in the beginning, it was really like, I don't know, I'm not the target audience, so.
That's really good. It's the first time that I've heard of like an investment pitch where you need to pitch the family as well. So that's a really cool one. And we have talked a lot about challenges, but also like what different things we have done ourselves to overcome these challenges. What do we think are the things that the society or the government should do to support more female in this ecosystem? What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, great question. And I think that many already touched on that topic in their examples from their experience as founders or working at a big company like SAP and supporting female founders. I think the family work balance is a very important issue that has already been touched upon, and related to that, getting rid of gender stereotypes. I mean, it's very important to kind of integrate caring for the children into the career, especially as a founder, but it's also important that men increasingly take over this role and are kind of more willing to kind of support that. For example, our last year's study showed that on average, female founders have about 5 to 6 hours less time working at their disposal, and this number was increasing when you look at female founders who have children. So when you look at female founders...
Is that 5 or 6 hours less per week or
per week? Per
week.
Yeah.
Over 40, so it's like...
Yeah, definitely. And the number is even higher when you look at women that have children. And for example, when you look at men who have children, male founders, they have about the same time to their disposal. So there you can see who's basically taking care of the children in this setting. And I think that has to be changed. That's very important. And a second very important aspect is within the ecosystem, and that has already been touched upon. When you look at investors, for example, on partner level, you need more female investors, definitely. That on the one hand, they understand the product, and on the other hand, just getting a more balanced view more generally.
You talk about actually both points that you mentioned are actually related to the growth and the evolution of female roles in families, in business. If there are more female partners in investors, or investment boards, then there will be more female founders because they know that their chance of success will become higher. If there are more fathers when there are more fathers taking care of kids, then girls also grow up understanding that, they can be more active in things outside family. Otherwise, girls just seeing their mothers all the time will think that, okay, that is how I'm going to look like when I grow up. That's very interesting, therefore. Thank you. And how is it? What do you think, Alexa, when you've met a lot of female founders? What would you say are the things that they would need support for?
So first of all, I second everything Alex said, and I think what you just touched on, the role models, are very important to show not only young girls that you can have a career and you can have an important job and you can be running a company, you can be running a country as a woman. I think is very important to live that role model on a daily basis. And I've just lost my train of thought, just a second. I think that, sorry, can you repeat the question? I had it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what kind of support would you think female founders or female entrepreneurs would need from the government or from society to create more success for women?
Yeah, I think I want to build a little bit on what Alex said, just from my personal, like, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I have been working for 20 plus years at SAP. And I've had 3 children in this time. I've never taken any time off. And I was able to build my career within the company. But that's also from the one side, because SAP is very open to supporting women who decide to have children, just as much as women who decide not to have children, because I think that's important too. But then also I have a husband who from the beginning was very supportive that I invest in my career. And I think the mindset is something that, especially in Germany, is still a little bit traditional, right? And I had my children in France, in Paris, where it's quite normal to have a child. 3 months later, you're back in the office. Nobody asks you anything. But when I was working at SAP in France, and I would travel to Germany regularly, and all of my colleagues would be like, well, will we see you in a year? You're going to take a year off, which is a traditional German break, which is fine for people who want to take that. But the funny thing was, I felt that everybody was assuming that that's the normal thing to do. And in France, nobody asked, right? And I never took this time off. And every time I was pregnant and I was going to Germany, people were like, so now you're going to take it. Like, number 3 is here. Within 3 years, I had 3 children. And I was like, no, it's still not. And you could tell that there's a mindset difference. I think that we still need to break. I'm not sure if it's different in Asia, for example, but in Germany, it's still very traditional. And I think living the role model and being able to talk about what you've done, and I do a lot of that within SAP too, for colleagues who are starting their journey, just to show them that it is possible to have a career and a family, if that's your choice. Again, I'm always insisting it's not for everybody, and people need to make their own personal decisions. And the other thing that also we do is we've stopped doing panel discussions. And I think today's panel discussion, don't get me wrong, is very valuable and very good, but we've stopped doing panel discussions that we host as SAP about female founders. So we just actually invite the founders to talk about their products, about their solutions, about how they have made their companies scale. And we just make sure that we have a diverse panel, men just like women, because the men's view, of course, is just as important as well. But we've stopped doing it about female entrepreneurship, just because we want the women to be talking about their solutions, how they're changing a specific industry, the amazing things that they're doing. And, oh, by the way, we've got 50-50 on the panel, for example.
Nice. And how is it in Asia? Like, how is it in Southeast Asia, Caecilia? Are there still social barriers or industrial barriers for women?
Yeah, I very much agree with what Alexa has highlighted. I think many of the values and culture in these in Asia countries sounds similar to some of your experience in Germany, where I think the expectation on women has still been largely traditional in nature. So I believe in terms of the society, there certainly can be a bit more support and also a bit more awareness, to say the least, in terms of supporting more female women leader being in the field of business or technology. But at the same time, I think I will also add that perhaps the pandemic has really kind of integrate life and work a little bit better. So, for all these months where many of our team members were actually working from home. And the funny thing is, we are much more integrated to their home life as well. I remember last year, I was flying on the plane all the time. I would be in a different countries every single week, or multiple countries in a single week. This year, I'm spending significantly more time at home, just like my colleagues. And when we do Zoom calls, we start to see each other's children showing up in the call. Like a 3-year-old little boy, say hello. Sometimes it's, whatever age, different pets, we get to see each other's home. So I actually felt this year, perhaps one realization that really comes to mind is how do we better integrate our home life, our life, personal life with actually, how we work. And perhaps some of these remote practices could continue and make it slightly more flexible for us to continue working in the business space going forward as well. So I thought it has been quite an interesting experience so far for these past couple of months. Keep seeing each other's children, whether it's business partners or own colleagues. But I would say it has been a lot more integrated this year, and it's quite a fun experience.
I think the idea of being remote itself is just really visionary, and it's not just for women. It's also not just for women as with kids, because as Caecilia would mention, if people's personal life are more integrated with their professional life, the personal growth is more integrated with the professional growth, then it actually works for example, men with children, women without children, men with dog, women without dog, etc., etc. Like they all kind of different lifestyles will be more supported when personal life and professional life got more synergy together. I would like to close the panel with my last questions on mentorship, on how to support other younger or less experienced female founder. And I would like to have these last questions to Alex and Aimie. So what have you known so far, or what have you done, what have you seen, what would be important to support in that regard?
So for me, mentorship was always really important because I grew up with my mom, and it was in a little village in the south of Germany. And there, for example, I was not allowed to go to high school because I was alone with her and she was working. And so the school system said, okay, I have to, in German it's called Realschule, I have to go there because my mom couldn't take care of me. And my career path was from the school system already kind of said they, okay, she's doing that because of her family context. What I think and what I learned there, so I made my path, went to other schools, etc., because my mom was really supportive and aggressive when it came to that. And what I think is really important to start pretty early, and there are kind of a lot of cool initiatives, for example, Startup Teens, which is an initiative here in Germany to support pupils of becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's female or male. So this is like a great initiative to be like a mentor as an entrepreneur, for example. Then I think there are also a lot of other great organizations out there. There's, for example, Mentor Me, also a German initiative where especially women are mentored by other people or like other female founders, also men. And I think this is also great. And I think we should start more initiatives like that to support women. What I'm doing, like I'm part of both initiatives, but what I'm doing also additionally is that I always tell people, just walk up and ask other people to be your mentor. And for example, what I did in the past is, and I remember this, it was like 8 years ago, I just wrote an email to Sheryl Sandberg because I knew she was traveling to Berlin. And I asked her if she would up to meet me for a coffee because I think she's super inspiring and I wanted to learn something from her. And I think nobody does this. That's why she replied. And we had a coffee date initially, but then she became sick, so she had to cancel it. But this showed me, like at a really young age, just ask for it. And the worst thing people can do is say no. And this is something what I really want to say to other young women, just ask like your people who really inspire you, or to people who are at another stage, just ask them. And usually people are not getting asked, so the chance that you're getting a no is is there, but then it's the same situation that you're in now. And I think this is something that is super important. And also on the other side, like for me now being an entrepreneur, I always take minimum 1 hour of time every week to go for lunch with a young entrepreneur or to support a woman in her career path. And I usually have like 3 to 4 mentees all the time and to support them and just to integrate in my daily life, like lunchtime, breakfast, or having a quick call. And I think everybody of us could invest like 60 minutes per week at any given time to support others to change the world a little bit.
Inspiring. Thank you, Aimie, for sharing. And last would be from Alex.
Yeah, great answer, and I think I don't have anything to add really to that, so I kind of answer a different question that you haven't asked, because what I think is also, in addition to that, important to get into contact with people who have an entrepreneurial mindset very early, for example, as a child and at school or at university, and that touches a little bit on what Alexa said about networks, just to get an entrepreneurial career on your radar is very important at a very early stage. And that's why all these programs are so important. And I also got that feedback from the interviews we were doing in the Female Founders Monitor with successful women who founded their own company. And they said, when I was 16, 17, I met someone who kind of talked to me about this or that. And then I got the idea, oh, this might be a career, this is an option. I think founding a company is still a very special and big thing, and you just have to get to know someone so that it's possible to think about it as a career, and that's very important. And that should be limited to men, but men and women should be have the same exposure to that kind of ideas. That's, I think, very important at an early age.
Nice. And Alexa, Caecilia, and Chanyu, do you still have anything to add before we close?
No, thank you for the great panel.
Thank you. Thank you for the great panel, for the great participation. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.